How's it going, you sexy beasts? Today we'll be covering another back to basics aspect that all players should know: weapon statistics. This video series is for both new and experienced players alike. More than likely we've all seen the statistics box shown around a new or favorite weapon and have been slapped in the face with a bunch of numbers. Knowing what all these numbers means and how you can put them to use is the differing factor between a certified badass and a complete noob. Aside from just looking at each particular weapon's in-game statistics, we'll be using the document created by Frank Elsner and his pack archive extraction script. With that, he's taken all the weapon information in Planetside 2 and compiled a big list showing every stat you could ever want for each weapon. So, this video in particular will help you out with reading the stats, how to use them to your advantage, and how to look for a specific weapon that you'll want to use. First off, we'll be showing how to read the in-game stats, and then swap over to Frank's document and finish off showing every single stat available to the weapons of Planetside 2. Let's go ahead and hop in-game and take a look at the Solstice VE3, the Vonu Sovereignty Starter Carbine for the Engineer and Light Assault classes. A predominant aspect of the stat screen for weapons is that weird looking graph with some numbers and lines. This correlates to the weapon's maximum damage listed off to the left on the y-axis and the minimum damage dropping off to the right of the graph along the x-axis. The graph itself can be rather confusing but makes a lot of sense once fully understood. Let's touch back on the graph in just a bit and finish off with the rest of the displayed stats. The type shows off which kind of weapon it is. This should be pretty self-explanatory as each class has their own specific weapons. Infiltrators can use bolt-action and semi-automatic sniper rifles and scout rifles. Light assaults can use carbines. Engineers can use carbines and battle rifles. Medics can use assault rifles. Heavy assaults can use light machine guns and battle rifles. All classes can use submachine guns, and all classes can use shotguns save for the infiltrator class. Fire rate displays how fast a weapon can shoot its ammunition if there was unlimited ammo and no reload necessary. This particular weapon fires 698 rounds per minute, or if you want to make that even scarier, it shoots about 12 bullets every second. A good rule of thumb is to learn the fire rate sections. Anything above 750 rounds per minute is generally a bullet hose designed for close range fighting. A weapon with 600 to 700 rounds per minute is a medium range weapon with good adaptability. Any weapon with a fire rate below 600 usually has a strong bullet damage to outweigh its low fire rate and are great for longer range engagements. Damage shows the maximum damage the weapon can deal and what range that maximum damage will hold. The next number pair shows the minimum damage the weapon deals and the maximum damage fall off that will occur. In Planetside 2, as bullets travel further distances, they deal less damage. Generally, the start of damage drop-off is 10 meters, and the end of damage drop-off is 65 meters. There are exceptions, and soft point ammunition can extend these ranges, but those are variables that we won't really get into today. The maximum damage this weapon can do is 143 damage at a maximum of 10 meters and deals a minimum of 112 damage at 65 meters. Taking a look back at the graph, we can see how far the bullet can travel along distances and generally get an idea of how much damage that bullet will deal at each distance. All classes, save for the Infiltrator and the Max, have 500 shields and health by default, which is an effective health of 1000 total if we're going to try and calculate how many bullets it takes to kill somebody. So if our weapon deals 143 damage maximum, that means it requires 6.99 bullets to kill somebody, so we'll go ahead and round it up to 7 bullets to kill total. In order to find the bullet to kill for each weapon, just divide 1000 by the maximum damage of the weapon or the minimum and round up any decimal points you're confronted with. Another example could be the New Conglomerate's Gauss Saw, which deals a maximum of 200 damage per shot. Considering the 1000 health from players, we've got a 5 bullet kill while hitting a non-infiltrator, non-nanoweave equipped class in the chest. Muzzle velocity dictates how fast bullets will travel once fired from the weapon. In this case, we've got a muzzle velocity of 515 meters per second, meaning that bullets will move at a rate of 515 meters per second when you're shooting at someone. This is a good stat to know when you're firing at someone moving parallel to you and you have to lead your shots. Keep in mind, the faster the muzzle velocity, the easier it is to hit a moving target. High velocity ammunition, when available, can increase the muzzle velocity, but once again, that's another variable I'll touch on a later video. Reload speed depicts the time it takes to reload a magazine and the weapon. The first two numbers displayed show how long and short reload speeds are. The Solstice VE3 has a long reload speed of 2.28 seconds and a short reload of 1.65 seconds. The lower the number, the faster the reload speed. Planetside 2 takes into account whether or not a bullet is still loaded in the chamber of the weapon, with short and long reloads being the showcase of that. A long reload occurs when there is no ammunition left in the magazine at all and requires the user to rechamber the weapon to load up another bullet. A short reload is where there is one or more bullets left in the magazine when you reload the weapon. To avoid ever hitting a long reload, make sure to save just one bullet in your magazine before having to reload. Ammunition showcases how much ammo each magazine can hold in the weapon and how much ammunition you can carry in the reserve. Hip accuracy shows how accurate the weapon is when you are firing from the hip. This is where the stats can be really freaking confusing because generally, all 5 of these numbers mean absolutely nothing without a legend to show which each number means. These numbers represent how accurate you are at firing from the hip in different stances of your soldier. The first number shown means how accurate you are when crouched and stationary while firing from the hip. A number of 1 means that the only way you can miss an enemy, if aiming perfectly center, is if that enemy is about 200 meters away, and even then that's a slim chance. So the higher the number, the less accurate you are. The lower the number, the more accurate you are. The second number, 1.5, represents your accuracy when crouched but moving. The third number, another 1.5, shows how accurate you are while standing stationary. The fourth number, 2, is how accurate you are while running. The fifth number shows how much your cone of fire blooms out in degrees with every shot while firing from the hip, which in this case is 0.1. As you fire more shots, the cone of fire, or your crosshairs, expands further and further, making your weapon less accurate over prolonged firing. The next set of numbers is identical to the previous set in regards to their definitions, but showcase much lower numbers. This is still the same scenario of crouched still, crouched moving, standing still, and standing running, but all while aiming down the sights of your weapon. The cone of fire bloom is also much lower per shot while aiming down the sights. So for this weapon, we have a crouched still cone of fire of 0.1, crouched moving cone of fire of 0.15, standing still cone of fire of 0.1, and standing moving cone of fire of 0.25, with the cone of fire bloom per shot of 0.05, all while aiming down the sights. Last bits of stats shown are the iron sight zoom, which shows how much your view is magnified by aiming down the sights with no sight equipped. In this case, our view is magnified by 1.35 times, giving us a slightly closer image while aiming down the sights. And last but not least, the fire modes. This shows what firing abilities the weapon has available in its fire mode selection. These can range from semi-automatic to burst fire to fully automatic. Generally, burst fire variants of fully automatic weapons have better accuracy, but sacrifice the ability to fire fully automatically. The in-game stats are great for what they do, but there's actually a lot more stats to the weapons than displayed on the weapon plates in-game. That's where we'll go ahead and hop into the document created by Mr. Frank, which I've linked in the description below. This very detailed document lists every single aspect about every single weapon in the game. Let's go ahead and filter to Vonu Sovereignty and the Carbine section to find our Solstice once again and show off all the stats we can read from there. Reading this can be very confusing at first, but hopefully I can sort out everything for you and make this a great resource for you to use in discovering strengths and weaknesses of weapons. So, we find our beloved Solstice. The first 10 columns we've already discussed, but it's the vertical recoil column that is the first stat that is not shown in game. This dictates how hard each shot from the gun will kick back in degrees. For the Solstice, we've got a vertical recoil of 0.25. As with the cone of fire numbers from before, the lower the value, the better. Recoil horizontal minimum and maximum displays how hard the weapon will recoil horizontally with each shot. The Solstice has the same minimum and maximum values for this at 0.2, so the horizontal recoil will always be consistent. Recoil angle denotes how far from vertical the weapon will recoil. The number on the left is the minimum, while the number on the right is the maximum. Positive values will pull to the right, with negative values pulling to the left. With our Solstice, each shot will recoil horizontally anywhere between 14 to 17 degrees to the right, with a deviation of 0.2 per shot. Any weapons with 0-0 as the recoil angle generally will recoil completely vertically, but will still deviate slightly due to the horizontal recoil values. The bias arrows dictate which direction the weapon generally recoils while firing, which is more of an image representation of the previous column. A left arrow dictates a left horizontal recoil bias, while a right arrow dictates a right horizontal recoil bias, with arrows in both directions meaning the weapon generally recoils vertically. Recoil decrease is the decrease in degrees per second of the weapon returning to its original firing position. First shot multiplier displays how much harder the first shot will recoil in comparison to the following shots. The first bullet fired in a series will have its recoil multiplied by this amount, such as the Solstice's vertical recoil of 0.25 being multiplied by 2.8 times, which gives the weapon a first shot recoil of 0.7, with every following shot still recoiling at the default 0.2 if held within the same trigger pull. And last but not least, we've got the aiming down sight move speed multiplier. This shows how much your character is slowed when aiming down the sights of a weapon. These values represent a percentage of your character's movement speed when in a standing position while running, but not sprinting. The Solstice, while aiming down the sights, will halve our movement speed, and generally all primary weapons will slow your movement speed in half while aiming down the sights. Though shotguns, submachine guns, and pistols will only slow your character's movement speed by 25% while aiming down the sights. There are exceptions, as there are with anything, so you'll just have to keep an eye out if that's a stat you want on your weapon. And there you have it, you sexy beasts, covering the statistics and very confusing numbers in Planetside 2. Were there any aspects of weapon statistics that I was really vague on or didn't explain quite well? Let me know in the comment section below and I'll try to clear things up. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a mega super big ass thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs it down and let me know what I can improve upon. Want to see more videos like this? And go ahead and subscribe. It's free!